One thing that really sort of just turns my stomach to let me know I don't think this process of quote unquote process of restoration he went through was as legitimate as people said. And Dallas megachurch founder Tony Evans, who stepped back from leading his church due to I'm going to quote this, quote unquote, undisclosed sin. He wouldn't tell his congregation what he did.
No, nothing.
And I don't know about you, that's not dealing with your sin.
No.
Welcome back to another episode of the Caffeinated Christian Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Willert, and I'm sitting here with Pastor Mike Rigglesworth, and we have a very interesting conversation today about some recent church news that's happening in the world. But before, Mike, we throw it over to you to dive into the first article. Let's talk about the coffee we are drinking. I am back into my Shark Week mug, and I'm just sipping on that cinnamon bun.
Nice. Nice.
What are you drinking, Mike?
I'm drinking Mount Comfort coffee, given the fact that it's a camping motif on the bag. So it's like a bear and like a camping tent and a fire. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna drink Mount Comfort coffee in my Weekend to Remember camping mug.
Looks like a huge mug.
It's a good sized mug.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom after this. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mike, let's dive in. We got 4 articles today. Let's dive into the first one. Some of these are just like, I was reading through the articles you were sending me, and I'm just like, what is happening in this world?
Yep. Well, can I just give some of the logic behind why we wanted to do this a little bit?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that's happening in the world at large. There's also a lot happening in the various subcultures that we're all a part of right now. Obviously, we're a part of the evangelical Christian subculture. And maybe for some of you, you see so many headlines concerning Christianity, and the headlines are rarely, if ever, good when there's a breaking news story. And so while we can't cover all of the news in the evangelical world, we wanted to cover some things and provide some commentary on them to help you, for those of you who are listeners, and also just provide you some updates on some one previous story in particular that we covered a few months back. I wanted to start with a light-hearted story here. So Northern Seminary, they're just outside of Chicago, a pretty well-renowned evangelical seminary. Well, the seminary recently announced their new president, Joy J. Moore, and they were having a banquet for her on a particular evening. And one of the board members gets up and says, we have to inform you that Dr. Moore has resigned. But here's the weird part. She didn't actually resign. So it says, the close of the evening, Moore had, quote unquote, resigned her presidency, according to the announcement of a board member, in front of the staff, board members, invited guests. But then she said, I didn't resign. And that amazed people. And it's just super, super confusing. And there was already, from what I understand, there was a bit of a crisis at Northern Seminary before her hiring. This didn't help things at all. It seems like the seminary was trying to recover from prior leadership issues. I don't know what the motive was behind telling people she'd resign when she hadn't resigned. Was this a PR stunt to make the seminary look good by hiring a black female president? I don't know. But I can't help but come back to the scripture in the Proverbs where it says, whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. Scenario just says, like, okay, this seminary is not functioning with integrity at all right now. Like,
and especially in last year, Scott McKnight, like Dr. Scott McKnight, who is incredible, he resigned citing basically that it's such a sort of mess happening in there. Basically, the article mentioned that even him being this sort of professor of New Testament theology within there. He's just like, I can't be here anymore. Stuff's happening. He didn't really mention it, but he had to leave. And this is Scott
Yeah.
McKnight. So that's a
Yeah.
warning flag to me immediately.
Hmm. Yeah. Did he get into why specifically he resigned? Like
He didn't.
specific nature of it?
That's what I was just looking for, but I couldn't
Yep.
find it in the article.
Yeah.
This is a longer
Yeah.
article.
Hmm. Yeah, and here's what I find interesting about the article. It says speculation about what has happened is all over the map. New Jersey pastor Dennis Blackwell, not associated with the seminary, stood up at Friday's service and accused the
Mm.
seminary of quote unquote racism, actually bullying and public relations sanitizing, presumably on the part of the seminary, could be involved. Wrote attendee and retired pastor Vance Ross on Facebook. So pastors are coming out and vocalizing their dissatisfaction with the way that the seminary is handling this. But I just, how do you do that? How do you do that? That's incompetence on another level.
Yeah.
Uh,
But at what point do you go, like, where are the receipts?
right,
Why are you making this claim she resigned? And she's like, no, I didn't. Like, what would make you think? I mean, resigning as someone from her position is not like a quick like tweet to someone in
right.
one individual person. Like it's crazy to think about.
And it was at a dinner where they were like acknowledging and celebrating her
Yeah. It wasn't
for
her retirement
stepping
party.
in.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a resignation party. She'd just been hired. Maybe this board member got confused. I don't know.
So it says he cited toxic culture. That's what it says. I just found
Yes.
the section.
Okay. Okay. Which that makes sense given the type of work that Scott McKnight has been engaged in recently with the books that he's written.
Yes.
So here's what the seminary dean and vice president of academics said in response to all this. He said, as we enter this next chapter, Northern does so with gratitude for Dr. Moore's contributions and a shared commitment to seeking what is best for all involved in our collective kingdom ministry. It's like no no clarity, no
No.
clarity around why this
Nope.
happened. Why
Nope.
why this board member got up and said she is resigned when she has not in fact resigned.
I
I
mean,
mean,
like, it's just I think something weird's gonna come out because as I read through this article, I'm like, none of this makes sense to me. Like, this is so bizarre how people are accusing her of resigning, and she's like, I didn't resign. Yet there's no one stepping up and going, this is the reason why, or this is the reason why. Here's my evidence. Here's my like. It's so bizarre to me
yeah,
why it seems like this position, which is a large, like huge position for them, right? You can't just come out and say like, sorry, I made a mistake. So something is behind the scenes that's absolutely weird happening, and they're just refusing to say it.
yeah,
Just refusing
yeah,
to say it.
yeah. And so it's either she resigned and she's lying, or this board member is lying,
Yes.
or this particular individual heard something that thought was her resignation, but it actually wasn't. But still, you should ask for clarity and make a statement about this after the dinner,
Yeah.
after you're able to collect all the facts and confirm that the new president of the seminary, which you just hired, has in fact resigned. I just the whole story is just strange. It's
Absolutely
goofy,
bizarre.
and,
Absolutely
and
bizarre.
yeah, and I mean, and the fallout spreads obviously to students, to faculty, to donors,
Yep.
people placed in these positions of trust. Like when leadership can't even agree on whether the president is in post or not,
It's wild to me, Mike.
that's not good.
It's
It's not
wild.
good.
But
Not good at all.
so I think this is a good stepping block for a lack of giving any information, like a lack of this blew my mind too. It's from the one article you sent me in October 6th by Adele Banks from the Roy's Report, and this is about Tony Evans, right?
Yes.
This is the title if anyone's looking for it. Tony Evans will no longer lead Dallas megachurch after restoration process for sin. Now, Tony Evans is a big name.
Huge name.
Big name, lots of books, big church, huge in the Dallas area. Now, there's one particular thing, Mike, that I read through this, and there's one thing that really sort of just turns my stomach to let me know I don't think this process of quote unquote process of restoration he went through was as legitimate as people said. And let me
Yeah.
read you this opening sentence from the article.
Yeah.
Dallas megachurch founder Tony Evans, who stepped back from leading his church due to a, I'm going to quote this, quote unquote, undisclosed sin. He wouldn't tell his congregation what he did.
No. Nothing.
And I don't know about you, that's not dealing with your sin.
No.
That's not calling out what you've done. It's, I don't want to ruin the church's name. I don't want to ruin my notoriety. I don't want to ruin who else is going to be my place. I don't want to stop book sales. I'm
Yeah.
not going to confess anything. Only people that I know that I have power over and can talk to is the only thing I'm going to do. He didn't even tell what the restoration process was. It was just a restoration process. And to me, I am calling absolute crud on this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If my pastor said, "Hey, I'm stepping back because of a sin and I'm not telling anyone and no one needs to know," I'm immediately leaving. That's because you do not know the process of
Yeah.
restoration in Scripture.
Yeah. And to this day, it's over a year ago that this news broke, and
Yeah,
we still don't know what it is, and it flies in the face of what Scripture teaches us to do.
yeah. But so
Like,
not only is he go through a restoration process, right?
sure.
He's still going, "Oh, I'm not coming back." So something, I mean, it's from what I remember is he tried to go through the restoration process in order to sort of come back to his position. But now he's just not coming back to his position. And
Yeah.
so I'm really it's weird, right? It's very weird to me. Although he says it's not a crime, there's
Yeah.
no legal charges, so
Sure.
it
But it
seems
doesn't need to be a crime to be immoral
it doesn't.
or to be
Exactly.
unbiblical. Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, and here's a direct quote from him. He said, "To the flock, to the congregation, for the consternation I may have caused you with questions and wondering and uncertainty, I'm sorry," he said. "I apologize sincerely for any instability that this season has caused you because you are my treasure."
All right,
And
if you're well, if the flock's your treasure, man up and say it. Like
yeah,
admit your sin.
yeah,
That's the whole point of
yeah,
being Christianity. Let's throw it in the light. This is disgusting. I want to apologize. Like you can apologize to me for doing, but I'm like, I don't know what I'm forgiving you for.
yeah. Right, and you can't truly forgive unless you know what you're forgiving.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's yeah. And what's even more concerning to me is you could listen to audio clips of Tony Evans announcing his latest book coming out. So it's the timing of this whole, restoration announcement is really interesting because right after he's going on to radio and podcasts and doing this, it's getting ready for the release of this new book that he's written. And the way he frames it in conversations with others, like on Moody Radio and other outlets, I believe he refers to it as an unfortunate circumstance that took place. And however he frames it, he did not frame it
Uh,
as it being a sin, right? So
right,
is it a sin? Is it something where you violated your relationship with God and with other people,
right,
and you need to go through a restoration process to reconcile and to heal and to do the necessary work you need to do to heal your own heart and find out what's causing you to do this? Or was it an unfortunate circumstance? Those are not the same things. But the way this is framed, it sounds like, well, there's some missteps that were made, some unfortunate circumstances we found ourselves in, but it wasn't really um, a full-on sin. But according to initial reports, it was. It was
right.
serious enough where you had to step away from pastoral ministry.
And what's
That tells
crazy,
me that tells me it's not an unfortunate circumstance.
which is crazy is, and on October 28th, it just so happens he has a new book coming out.
Yeah.
Come on. All of a sudden you have
Right?
a year off because of I'm not going to tell you why, and still getting paid, and also a new book. And then this just randomly comes out of the whole service of praying for him, and we're sorry, we're not going to tell you anything. Oh, by the way, in 5 days, I have a new book coming out. Come on.
Yeah,
Like granted,
it's
I have
suspect,
no
isn't it?
evidence of causal connection. I just don't think I'm that stupid.
Yeah, yeah. Like, how do you balance privacy and transparency in pastoral ministry? There's a question to be had, but when you commit sin and you are in a public role, the way that Tony Evans is, where
Yeah.
you are more or less um, in the spotlight as a professional Christian,
Yeah.
you don't have the luxury of that type of privacy. You don't.
No.
And when you're a public leader who influences thousands, what do you owe your flock?
Yeah.
They should know the truth. They should know the truth. James 5:16, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed.
Yep.
And we don't get a pass. Leaders don't get a pass. In fact, leaders undergo even more scrutiny. And when a leader is in the public eye, they are called out and rebuked
Mm-hmm.
publicly for their
Yeah.
sin. It's in First Timothy, I believe First Timothy 5. So I don't know how you get around that. And and I understand leadership isn't bulletproof. No one is. But how leadership responds in moments like this gives you a window into what their true priority is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is PR management 101. That's what it is,
Yeah.
right? Having structures of accountability and having proper and honest confession and restoration, that matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It matters a lot. And if it was somebody with less of a platform, you can bet they wouldn't be coming back into ministry.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
100%.
yeah. All right. So we have two more stories here that we're going to hit on here, Ryan.
Let's just make should I state my ironic comment about the advertising? Websites, you need to do a better job at recognizing your advertising because what they show versus what they show when you click it is a dramatically different thing.
Oh, I know. I
And
know.
so
Yeah.
even though you're trying to advertise for a chair and you think that's perfectly clean, Protestia, guess what happens when you click on the link? Sorry, so let's,
Yeah. You go to some inappropriate things, don't you? Yeah.
yes, we'll put
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah. So our
Usually when
next
you can't
story,
click off of it, you try to press that X and it tricks you to click the stupid app.
gotta love it. So our next story is, I'll just give our listeners or watchers a disclaimer. This is an unsettling one,
Yes.
right? So if you have trauma around any type of abuse, I would not listen or watch
Hmm.
this section.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a worship minister. His name is what is his name here?
John Paul Sheptak.
John Paul Sheptak. There we go. There we go. It was an unusual name. He's a worship minister and with an unusual birth
Birth.
defect.
Yep.
He was born without arms. He was serving in a Christian context as a worship minister, and he was arrested for producing and possessing child sexual abuse material. And
Which
so,
he which he stole, according to the article.
yeah, which
So
is
yeah,
disturbing.
so it
Yeah.
sounds like what he did was um he found a few years ago a young woman's cell phone, right? Which she had unfortunately wasn't given didn't use her wisdom and she took inappropriate pictures of herself. He found it on her phone and he sent it
Yeah.
to himself. And then what he did with this is he I don't even want the article says blackmail, but I don't know if this is the correct term. It's almost like threatening. It wasn't necessarily like a blackmail. It was like
Yeah.
it wasn't if you don't do this, I will do this. It was I need you to send me more photos. because I'm worried that you're going to be assaulted. And then he sent her inappropriate videos of women being physically assaulted sexually, which is a whole nother category, which is so messed up.
Yeah,
Um,
that's deceptive for sure. I wouldn't
yeah,
call it. I don't know if I would call it
I don't
blackmail.
know if it's necessarily blackmail. It was
I
more
don't
like,
know.
I'm worried for you. Look what I have of you. Trust me, I can protect you if you send me more stuff. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm confused how that's a protection. Um, it was almost like a peripheral threat, it almost seems like.
Yeah,
I don't know how he's going to get away with
yeah.
it. It's bizarre.
Hmm.
But yeah, he was just he was actually, it sounded like he was in prison doing ministry work at a woman's prison. And during his ministry work, he got arrested during his actual work. With because she was a minor at the time. Granted, it's inappropriate if she was 24, but
Of
she
course.
was 17 at the time. And so it's another unfortunate pastor from the SBC. Not so
Yeah.
that it's only the SBC that's happening to these pastors, but it's
Hmm.
just another tragic sexual sin and lust as Christians being hit again. I
Yeah.
just think like that it's so crazy how the devil's coming after you.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. And yeah, and I know the chronology of this story is still it's still developing for sure, but
Yeah.
the charges are horrific, and he definitely did this. What's jarring to me is that
Why did he send
this
it to her?
the man's story had been one of inspiration. Like, this guy born without arms, he's ministering through worship, and behind the scenes he's doing these criminal and exploitative things.
Hmm.
And it raises some really difficult questions for us to consider in the church world, but it reminds me that gifting and invisibility does not go hand in hand with character and integrity.
Nope.
It doesn't. And like it's it's difficult for us to read stories like this, and I think it's easier now to be desensitized to it because we're bombarded with it almost constantly. But
Yeah.
I think it's really important for us to remember that, like, this is nothing unusual to the human story.
Yeah.
These sorts of sins, and you could have loads of talent, you could have loads of charisma,
Yeah.
but if you're not using those talents, if they're not undergirded by purity and integrity, they mean absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing. And that's one of the disturbing things that I found in this story is that you have somebody who's been in this position for as long as he has, and he's living this double life. So I think safeguards, accountability, transparency, like they're not optional if we believe the gospel is genuine.
Right.
I think it's hard for us to admit that people who wish harm on people that we love and we care for could find their way into the church, but it's
Hmm.
churches are easy targets,
Yeah.
really easy targets, right? And I don't know the exact story of this guy, and well, he definitely groomed this girl, of
Hmm.
course. He manipulated her, he groomed her, he exploited her. And what people will do when they find their way into a church, and we've had to deal with this in our church on more than one occasion. When someone with this mindset comes in, they're not going to come out right with their motives and say, "This is what I plan to do."
No.
They're going to not only groom the victim, they're going to groom the people that are in relationship with the victim. They're
Hmm.
going to put on the best possible front imaginable so that you bring down your guard. You aren't any bit the wiser about what they're planning to do because they seem genuine, they seem kind and loving. Man, we live in a day where we have to have those safeguards put in place because too many stories like this and stories adjacent to it come out where someone is wronged and abused
Yeah.
and sexually, emotionally, spiritually, you name it. And when abuse happens in a ministry context, the damage goes far beyond the immediate victim. It impacts the people around the victim. It shakes the witness of the church. It erodes the any trust a local congregation builds up in its local community. There's the ramifications of this are massive,
Yeah.
and so it's important for us to be honest about that and talk about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Mike, we
Yeah,
have one last one that's in the recent news. You want to
we
talk about that one?
do. Yeah, we do. And this is actually a story that we covered when it broke initially. I want to say this was back in February or March. I'm not.
Man, was it that long ago?
It was a while back, and it was the story of Michael Tate. He was former singer of DC Talk and Newsboys. He it, News story broke that he was facing multiple allegations of sexual abuse and grooming, and he admitted in a public statement. He said, "For some 2 decades, this is a direct quote. I used and abused cocaine, consumed far too much alcohol, and at times touched men in an unwanted, sensual way. I am ashamed of my life choices and actions and make no excuses for them." Further, a reported victim said, he said, "Look at the trail of destruction that he's left behind." And you can go into detail and find out this trail of
Yeah.
destruction. And there was a Roy's Report article that came out recently. Let's
One thing,
see.
Mike, that's really interesting to me
Yeah.
that the charismatic nature and the amount of authority people allow charismatic people. Like
Yeah.
it's so I want to say because the line here is like he is like the most charismatic, opportunistic, charming individual you ever meet. And he walks in and owns the room. Now to me, just I don't know if I'm just of a different breed. I don't really care. Like I could have my favorite artist, David Phelps, walk in the room and be like, "Oh, that's cool. I'll go say hi to him."
Hmm.
But I just don't.
Yeah.
I guess I just don't care about popularity and order. Like, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
it's you can have the biggest celebrity walk in. I'll be like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, I'll go say hi, and then I'm gonna go get my coffee. I guess I'm just not in awe with the spotlight when famous people enter. I just
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah. I
matter.
don't get starstruck.
Yeah,
No.
I don't get why people get so starstruck. I don't know if that's the nature of social media in the past
And
few
yeah.
decades or
And it happens even on a smaller scale in pastoral ministry. Like because
right.
you're on a stage and you're able to articulate yourself relatively well and expound the scriptures and challenge people, like people see you in a different light. They just do. And you can't completely control that,
Yeah,
but you can push back against that celebrity culture and remind people that you are a human being and you should not give a human being that has sinful inclinations like every other human being on the planet special privileges just
right.
because they can preach well or they could sing well or they could play guitar, whatever it might be. Yeah.
Reminds me of a I'm not going to say which pastor and which church because I've been to quite a few of them in Buffalo.
Hmm.
Um, but I remember being a leader and the one of the pastors came and spoke and I went to go use the restroom afterward because what I like to do is when I was a small group leader I like to go play basketball or football or whatever four square whatever that one is the four square like in the air whatever that one is you know what I'm talking about
Yeah.
and I remember leaving the restroom and I walk out and every single leader was in a circle around this pastor just laughing as he was telling stories and I just remember walking past and just like shaking my head and as I went back into the gym. Like what a fascinating like you have kids for 2 hours a week and I know a lot of kids in the group, Mike, and they need adults in their life. But it just they were so absorbed by the leader that they couldn't do anything else but like laugh at the stories. And I'm like, you guys need to move. Like you
Right.
need to start doing something. Your kids are in the gym. But that's just
Yeah.
even on a small church stage, it's with a pastor who isn't famous but known within the community. People are still
Hmm.
starstruck.
Right. Right.
Wow, I'm looking at Mike more hair than you.
Yeah, she decided she was going to make an appearance. She was fussing. She's so for those of you who are listening and not watching, I have some new rhythms, weekly rhythms that I'm adjusting to right now, and it involves my daughter being home with me 1 or 2 days a week. One day is when I'm working from home,
Right.
which is today, and she's just developing at a really good clip, and she's recently started rolling over,
Mm.
and so
Is that
she's
what that
like
noise was in the back?
she's only 3 months. She's
Uh,
rolling all over the house. And so I put her on a little comforter and she's like halfway across the living room. And I have to pick her. I'm exaggerating slightly. But coming back to the Michael Tate
yes.
article, yeah, the celebrity culture thing is an issue. And I think that's one of the primary things. Like we've elevated people who represent Jesus on a pedestal. We worship them instead of Jesus himself.
Yeah, it's so
The
bizarre to me.
cult of personality, as it is called.
Yeah.
But now there's this reckoning where it's like you can't just give people a free pass. You have to look at their character as much as their charisma. If not, you need to examine their character more seriously than you do their charisma. Now Tate is coming out and apologizing to some of the victims, which is commendable.
Yes.
When we initially reported we only got the tip of the iceberg. There was way more. There was like there's drug use, alleged rape and sexual abuse over a 16-year period of Tate. It's way more serious than what it was initially reported as, which it always is.
Yes. Yep.
But he said this to his one of his victims. This is a call that Tate made to one of the victims. He said, "When I first made the advances on you, touched you inappropriately, and it just bloomed out of control, and it got the best of me. All I can say is from my heart, and truly, I'm truly sorry." And this victim goes by the pseudonym Lucas. He was a former session and touring musician for Michael Tate.
Hmm.
When he was 19, he met Tate at a music festival in Alabama back in 2000. And he alleges that Tate groomed, manipulated, and sexually assaulted him sporadically between 2002 and 2010. It's it's terrible. Yep.
Yeah. The
Yep.
face she's giving me is like, who's that loser
Yep.
on
Yep.
that over there? But yeah, you read the end of the article and it talks to this Lucas, and I like so I kind of struggle, right, Mike, a little bit when it comes to this. And I kind of like understand where Lucas is coming from. Where Michael Tate, it seems through this, he just like, hey, are you gonna are you gonna sue me? Like, what are you doing? Like, I want to apologize, but I'm like, I need to know if I need a lawyer. And so it had this feel of like, I'm calling to also get information of what I need to do. But it
Hmm.
seems to me, like Lucas says here, like he's concerned that if everyone just lets it go, you're going to see what you typically do: a comeback book, a comeback tour, a publishing right, all of these things, because now a
Hmm.
Christian has these experiences, and let me teach you how to not go through it, as always seems to happen, right? Here's a book.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Luke, and I get it. Lucas is like,
Everyone loves a redemption story,
and Lucas
right?
is like,
Yeah.
he needs to go to jail. Like, I can
Yeah.
forgive you personally,
Sure.
but you need to go to jail. And
Yep.
like, I get that. Like, I still think there is a US governmental legal system that the person needs to seek
Yeah.
consequence and from.
Absolutely.
Like, and
Absolutely.
so I just don't think necessarily forgiveness is you. I know people will be like, well, you shouldn't want to harm the person and the jail is harm. And it's like, but I'm such an epistemic inability to know if you've really changed.
Yeah.
I guess I just don't see jail as a non-requirement if you forgive someone. I think there are consequences that the non-Christian legal system you need to go through. That's just
Yeah.
how punishment and crime works.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel for Lucas. I also feel for the understanding of like you don't want harm for Michael Tate, but at what point do you go, you still need to suffer the consequences?
Hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts on that, Mike, are, but
Yeah, I completely agree. I believe that the forgiveness of Jesus is available to everyone and to anyone, no matter what you've done. But what forgiveness does not do, it does not alleviate the consequences of your actions. It doesn't.
right, right,
And somewhere along the way, we've deemed it okay to say, all right, we're going to forgive you, and we're going to try to eliminate any and all ramifications for your missteps.
right.
Right. And this comes back to some of the other stories that we were talking about before. Like, okay, where's the accountability for the board member that made the statement that he did at the president's dinner for Northern
It's,
Seminary?
right?
Where's the accountability for Tate, right?
Yeah,
Where is the accountability for Tony Evans that helped, that should have prevented him from stepping into this act of indiscretion, whatever it is, in the first place?
right.
So there isn't, for certain people, you you don't face consequences. For other
And Mike,
people,
if someone
however
like
you
you,
do.
if someone like you or I did it, no one really cares who we are because no one knows our name. So it's throw him in jail. Oh, but
Exactly.
this guy's a
Exactly.
famous singer. We got to deal with him in a different way.
Yeah.
It's a weird, messed up world we live in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all under the name of protecting the reputation of the church.
Yes.
That's what it's all done under. Now, I think of Jesus' warning in Matthew 23, where he says they do all their deeds. He's referring to the Pharisees. They do all their deeds to be seen by others. He says,
Hmm.
but you are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher and you are all brothers.
Hmm.
So I think I think it's important that we understand that we shouldn't elevate people to a certain status um, before there's been a serious examination of character. And Paul gets into that very, very, very explicitly in his letter to Timothy. Read the letter that he writes Timothy, First Timothy, and it with the exception of being able to teach, all of the other qualifications for an elder have to do with character.
Hmm.
And if you do not have that character, you are not a leader in the church.
Yeah.
Right? You should not be quick to anger, quick towards drunkenness, sexually immoral, like a husband of one wife is what Paul says.
Mhm.
And like pretty much everything that we've seen, not only from Tate, but so many of these other leaders, we're finding that their character is antithetical to the scriptures. What the Bible actually lays out very clearly. It's not
Mhm.
that we don't have the instructions, we just don't follow them.
Right.
Yeah. Um, Now, if you're listening or you're watching and you're hurt by this and this shakes your trust, I just think we have to be reminded that we can't put our trust in human beings who can't save. Like our hope is not in ministries, it's not in leaders, it's in Jesus.
Yep.
He is the only one who's not going to let us down. And now I know that we have four different stories, four very different contexts. We have a seminary president who was supposedly resigned, but didn't resign, according to her words. We've got a, a worship leader with no limbs who is producing child porn. We have Tony Evans, who comes back into public ministry,
Refuses to tell the
public
ministry or anyone what he did.
refuses to tell anybody what he did. And then we have Tate, who's now publicly apologizing because his sins were found out. And four different stories, very different contexts. But I think as we look across all of them, I wonder what's the common thread here. And for me, it comes back to two things: a crisis of integrity,
Mhm.
which leads to a crisis of trust.
Right.
Right? If you cannot trust that somebody is who they say they are, you're not going to be able to trust them.
Mhm.
And I think like all of these stories have to do with positions of leadership and how you steward that sacred calling. And the church keeps building platforms faster than it builds character.
Hmm. Right.
That has to change. Um, I think another thread here is transparency and accountability. Like
Right.
we keep seeing like things that are kept in the darkness, kept in the shadows versus things that are eventually brought out into the light. Ephesians 5:11 says, "Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." That doesn't mean shame mongering. It doesn't mean we revel in other people's misdeeds. It means truth with compassion,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
And we should have compassion on each of these individuals because
Mhm.
they're individuals that are made in the image of God, people who are deeply loved, people that Jesus wants to see repent and turn to him and experience full and abundant and beautiful lives. But you can't do that without owning up your own junk and the consequences of it. You can't.
Exactly.
So, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's like when like if you could use like the structure of your house as an example, your roof looks completely okay. It looks intact, but inside the rafters are rotting away and the supports are shaking.
You got
So,
termites.
yeah, and so if we don't address the support structures that are holding up our institutions, holding up the church, um, it's going to continue to rot.
Right.
And if you're in a church or a ministry, um, even if you're just attending a church, you're not powerless. Um, Ask questions of your leaders. Ask what accountability practices are put in place for your leadership, for your pastors. How do decisions get made in your church? What is the process of hiring and firing a leader in your church or your organization? And if you are a leader, you have an obligation to lead with humility and love and transparency.
Right.
So I think that's important. So,
Yeah. Perfect.
yeah.
Great.
Ryan, do you have any other thoughts that you wanted to add before we sign off today?
No, just continue, for our listeners, continue to guard your hearts and your minds.
Yep.
That's all I got to say.
All right. You have anything to say, Addison? No, nothing. Nothing today. All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Caffeinated Christian. As always, we invite you to like, listen, watch, share, subscribe, and be sure to leave a review. And if there's any future episodes that you would like us to tackle, future subject ideas, please feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram at The Caffeinated Christian. That is at The Caffeinated Christian. Thank you for listening or watching. And as always, have a terrific day.